In this video, we're going to look at how we can use a half-circle protractor to measure angles and draw angles. You might remember from yesterday's lesson, we can use a full circle protractor to measure and draw angles, but another tool that we can use is the half-circle protractor to measure angles. Like the full circle protractor, half-circle protractors have a center and a zero line. But unlike full circle protractors, half-circle protractors have two different scales. One scale here with 0 on the outside. Along this outside scale, we go from 0 to 180 degrees from left to right. But there's another scale over here on the right-hand side which has 0 on the inside scale. This moves 0 to 180 degrees, moving right to left. Yesterday we sang and it was really cheesy. So that's right, we're going to sing again. So remember that we sing, we put the center on our vertex and clap our hands. Clap, clap. We put the center on the vertex and clap our hands. We put the center on the vertex and 0 on the starting line. We put the center on the vertex and clap our hands. So here with a half-circle protractor, we remember that we put the center of the protractor on the vertex of our angle. And we line up. So again, here's the center of our protractor. It's on the vertex. And we ensure that we have the 0 on the starting line of our angle. We can adjust it here. And now we can be set to measure our angle. This may be the most important step. We need to take a look at the 0 which is touching the starting line. And we see that it's the scale on the outside of the protractor. So we're using all of the numbers, all of the measures on the outside of the protractor to give us our measure of 160 degrees. We would not want to make the mistake of using the wrong scale. Let's take a look at another example. Again, we put the center on our vertex and clap our hands. Put the center on the vertex, clap your hands. Put the center on the vertex and 0 on the starting side. Put the center on the vertex, clap your hands. Again, the most important step when we use a half-circle protractor is making sure that we use the correct scale. And here we realize that the 0 that we're using is actually the bottom or the inside scale. So we use the inside track or inside scale worth of measures to measure our angle. And we see that this angle is 120 degrees. Let's take a look at 3 more examples. Here we're asked to write whether each angle is acute or obtuse. And remember that acute is any angle that is less than 90 degrees but greater than 0. And obtuse is anything that is greater than 90 degrees but less than 180. So we take a look at our first example. We know that our first example seems definitely smaller than a right angle or square corner, so we say that it is acute. But now let's go ahead and measure it. So we'll put the center on our vertex, and we'll line up one of the zeros. Pay special attention to which scale we're using, the outside scale or the inside scale. And we see that our 0 is on the outside scale, so we'll use the outside scale and measures. We definitely won't use these inside ones. We wouldn't say that this angle is 125 degrees. No, we know it's acute, so it cannot be 125 degrees. So we're going to continue to make sure that we use the outside track of numbers because we're using the 0 on the outside scale. So we see that this is about 56. It might be 55 or 56. Let's see what we have. 55. Good. If we put 56, that might be okay. Mr. Heck will probably give you a break there. Let's take a look at another example. So again, we're going to put the center of our protractor on our vertex. We're going to line up a 0 with our starting side. And we'll pay special attention to which scale we use, the outside or the inside scale. We find our 0, and we find that our 0 is on the inside scale here. So we're going to use the inside measures, and we find that this angle passes just about through 40 degrees. And we knew even before looking at this that this angle was smaller than 90 degrees, so we know that it's acute. And we can say that the measure of angle COR is about 40 degrees. Let's finish this up by measuring this last angle. So we know that this angle is much larger than a right angle, It's larger than 90 degrees. It's smaller though than a straight angle, which is 180, so this is obviously obtuse. But let's go ahead and measure this angle. And it's important that we use the half-circle protractor correctly. I'm going to go ahead and line this up with our center on our vertex and see, uh-oh, this might be hard to measure. We have to rotate our half-circle protractor in a way that allows us to get to a reading of both sides. Again, even here we'll be rotating it in an incorrect way. We can't get a complete measure of the angle. So we have to keep rotating and make sure that we have 0 at the center, and we've got 0 on one of our vertex. We've got our center on the vertex and 0 on our starting side. And we ask, so there's our center at the vertex, and we take a look. We've got 0 at the starting side, but which scale will we use? Will we use the inside scale or the outside scale? We take a look and we see that our 0 is here on the inside, so we're going to use our inside scale and follow it all the way until we reach our finishing side. And we see our finishing side. We will not use the number on the outside since we're using the inside scale. And we see that our angle is about 140 degrees. We can also draw angles with a half-circle protractor. Here we're asked to draw an angle that is 35 degrees. And it's important that we choose an endpoint. We line up our protractor, or we line up the 0 on one of our sides. And it doesn't matter here in this first problem which endpoint we choose, but we've got our center on the vertex, or what will become a vertex. We've got 0 on the starting side. And we take a look again, which 0 are we using? The inside or the outside track? Well, we're using the outside track. So we're just going to count 10, 20, 30, and between 30 and 40 is 35, so we make a dot right there. And then we're going to move our protractor out of the way, and we'll make sure that we grab a straight edge to make our finishing side. So we grab a straight edge because we don't want to freehand this, and we draw a ray coming out of point H. And we know now that the measure from our starting side to our finishing side is 35 degrees. In our second example, we're asked to draw a 150 degree angle using ray CD as one of the sides. But we wouldn't want to use D because D is not the end point of the ray CD. We want to choose the end point of the ray CD, so we choose point C as the vertex of our angle. So when we put our protractor on here, we put the center of our vertex on point C, and we line up 0 with our starting side of our angle. And we see again that we're using the outside scale, not the inside scale. So here we count up all the way past 90 to 150. And once we get to 150, we go right outside of our protractor to make a small little dot. Once we do that, we can remove our protractor and grab a straight edge because we are not going to freehand our angles. We're going to make them very exact. And when we grab our straight edge, we're going to start at point C and create another ray through that point that we made, that pencil mark that we drew. And we know that the angle we just created is 150 degrees. We can take a look at another example. Here it asks us to draw a 60 degree angle using ray EF. Remember, F is not an endpoint, right? We're not going to create an angle something like this. We're going to use the endpoint of our ray, which is E, to start our angle from, or use as a vertex for our angle. So we put the center of the half-circle protractor on our vertex. We make sure 0 is on our starting side. Make sure 0 is on our starting side, and we count up to 60 degrees. And at that 60, we're going to be using, again, the outside scale. So right outside that outside scale of 60, we make a point, and we grab our straight edge. Starting at endpoint E, or vertex E, we're going to draw a ray straight through that 60 degree mark. And we know that this angle is 60 degrees. Is it possible to use a half-circle protractor to draw an angle that's larger than 180 degrees? This is challenging for some, but let's take a look and hopefully we can make these types of problems easier. Here we're asked to draw an angle using a half-circle protractor That's 330 degrees. But we know that our half-circle protractor, regardless of which way we choose or which scale we choose, only takes us from 0 to 180. So how could we possibly draw an angle that's 330 degrees? Well, let's think about it. What do we know? Well, we know that a circle is made up of 360 degrees. I'm sorry, not 36 degrees, but 360 degrees. And we know that our angle is 330 degrees. So really, our angle is going to look almost like a circle, but not quite. It'll actually just be, if we subtracted 360 from 330, we know that the missing piece is 30 degrees, right? Our angle is going to be only 30 degrees shy of a complete circle. And this 30 degrees is an important part of how we can draw an angle this size using a half-circle protractor. To begin, we put the center of our half-circle protractor on the end point of our ray and make sure that we have 0 on the starting side. And we can count up to 30 degrees. So we count up to 30 degrees and we make a mark. And we're going to use now a straight edge to connect our vertex, or the end point of this ray, and create another ray through that 30-degree mark. Now if we think about it, we've created an angle. We can kind of think of this angle as a 30-degree angle, right? But I've got a question for you. What would the measure be if we continue to start with our starting side and measured around all the way to our finishing side here? What would the measure of that angle be? Well, we know that if it was a full circle, it would be 360 degrees. So if we took that 30-degree portion and added it to this mystery portion, we know that we would be at a total of 360 degrees. So this sort of mystery portion must be 330 degrees. Let me draw this degree marker in a correct spot. 330 degrees. Because if we had 330 degrees plus that 30-degree section, we know that we would come a complete circle, or 360 degrees. So we can just simply erase that 30-degree mark, and we know that this is a 330-degree angle. And it's a special type of angle that is more than 180 and less than 360. And this is known as a reflex angle. So today we've learned about how we draw angles and measure angles using a half-circle protractor. Thanks for stopping by.